Hey everybody, I wanted to take a minute to talk about attacks and a punch animation or any sort of animation that requires force to kind of be projected in a direction, right? So this is sort of in addition to some of the things that we looked at in game animation. We need idles, we need runs, we need, jump animations, but often you'll need the character attacking something or throwing something. um, and so this is sort of a little bonus of something that you can work on in your spare time if you would like. So I think that the thing to think about here is that this is all about force and directing force, right? And in this case, if we're attacking something in front of us or something in front of our character here, um, what we're looking at is hitting something out here, right? And so that means this character who is currently standing straight up and down needs to direct their force that way, right? Um, and so this is all about turning this kinetic energy, or sort of this potential energy of a character standing into a kinetic energy of the character throwing this punch forward and hitting an object. Um, so I want to draw a comparison here to other types of actions that this would also apply to. If you watch the slow motion of a baseball pitch, you will see sort of the same issues here, which is we have a person standing straight up and they're really needing to direct motion forward, right? And so we can kind of break this down into some processes of how we change that energy, or how we sort of make that energy flow forward. And so a lot of this is using the character's or the person's weight, right? And you'll notice what a baseball pitcher does is they start to throw parts of their body forward, right? They're using gravity to pull them forward. So if he's thrown his weight off balance here, he would start to fall forward, and in the process of that fall forward, he builds up energy in his leg, and he throws himself forward. He jabs himself forward. But I want you to pay attention here to the thing that we are really, really wanting to have the energy is in his hand over here. It's in this baseball, right? And I want you to watch what happens with that baseball as we go toward the point of release here, right? I'm going to go ahead and hit play on this. You'll see that baseball is always one of the last things. Like it's way back here in the back. The rest of his body is out in front, and that means he has all of this momentum from this kinetic energy of his body moving forward. Like, look how far back his arm bends. Is all of that energy from his body moving forward that he is transferring into this arm and eventually out through that ball, right? And so when we see the release of this, it's got some energy to it, right? Like it's like he's slingshotting that ball, right? And so we get it right there, right? So let's go look at how we can kind of put that into a punch animation, right? So I've got a couple of keyframes here. I'm also using some tools from Animbot. Don't worry too much about this, but this just lets me select the entire character. I also have some other tools here that are very similar to like the tween machine, and I'll probably be using those in a minute. But I have sort of a neutral idle pose, right? And then I have a punch pose, right? And I'm actually going to go ahead and say this punch pose is intentionally weak. Because that's what I see more than anything is people who, like, they need a punch pose. They pretty much take their idle pose and they do something to the equivalent of this, right? And you'll see why this is not a very strong punch, right? Like, that just doesn't feel like it hurts. And that doesn't feel like it has any energy behind it, right? One of the things that makes this animation, or will make this animation feel like it has energy behind it, is really pushing the character forward. And so I push this character forward, and this feels like I've done a lot, but recognize, like, we really want to stretch this character. Something I will sometimes do is I will create an object for the character to punch, and I'll get my pose, and I'll say, this is the thing my character is punching, and then I'll put it just out of his reach. Right? And I will try to push this pose to see how far I can get this character to reach forward before I start to break it. And I may not be able to make it, but just by twisting his body and like reaching for it, right, that's getting me closer. Maybe I would also use the clavicle, push that a little bit more. If I have some options to stretch this arm, maybe I would even consider doing that. And the point is that this is a very important pose. Right? This is a very key moment to that. And of course I can push my character forward. Eventually he's going to start feeling off balance. So to maybe fix that a little bit, I could counterbalance with this arm. This also makes a nicer silhouette and pose, right? Maybe something like this. Right? And so that's a much stronger punch pose. Right? I could even go so far as to maybe scoot this foot forward and make a step forward as part of the punch, and that gives me plenty of more room to continue to push my character forward even more, and maybe even rotate them forward even more. So if I can get to that point where I'm pretty much hitting the ball, of course it's a little lower. All right, let's go ahead and say that's it. Here, I'll cheat a little bit. There we go, he's punching the ball. So now this animation is going from here to here. And these are my two contact poses. And the thing that my two main key poses. And the thing I think we also need to roll his foot up there, just for cleanliness sake. Now the thing that you need to recognize in this is that still feels weak. And the reason for that is because the fist is leading, right? And like we saw in the baseball player, a lot of what makes this feel energetic is to have the mass of the character be what is driving all that energy, and it just travels down through the fist, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get relatively close to this, right? And maybe here, select everything, and I'm going to use this tweening machine to sort of favor this pose, right? I'll go ahead and make this pose here to where the foot contacts already, right? And so like my body is going to get there early, but I want the rest of my upper torso, whatever it is that's getting my arm there, I want that to take a little while longer, right? Maybe I'll do something like this, and maybe even try transforming it a little bit instead of just rotating it, something like this. And like this is important, like the spacing as we get to right here as we get to the impact needs to be pretty big. Okay, so I will, maybe for this pose, I will really do something like this, this, and this. Broke the elbow. Let's try this a little bit better. Maybe something a little bit more like this, and I can maybe throw this arm forward. And what I'm really trying to do now is I'm trying to make the spacing in between this pose and this pose really big, right? Trying to keep the fist as far back away from this as I can. Right? Keep in mind, this is an anticipation, right? Even though we're moving forward, this is an anticipation to this punch. So once I have that, like it's going to feel a little bit more powerful on that punch. See what I'm saying there? I get this impact. Now let's play with the timing just a little bit. Maybe make this even like faster. So what I'm really trying to do is, in the same way we have a bouncing ball, we want that spacing right before the ball hits the floor to be the biggest distance it travels. If I grab this character's, let's grab this. This is a good example. If I grab this character's control here and I go to my visualize, create editable motion trail, I get this motion trail on the character's fist. But what I want to see more than anything is I want to see on that motion trail, I want to see the frame crosses, right? So I can see where every frame is. And you see what I'm trying to do is make this space right before the impact this frame right here, a big space, right? And so I can play with this pose. I can continue to play with this pose to where we end up with something like that. I'm also, like, because it's a little bit more efficient, I want my arm to, as much as I can, to be going kind of in a straight line, right? Or my fist to be, relatively in a straight line. So maybe something like that. And so now we get this big spacing right before the impact, and we're kind of easing into that. And so now you'll see that that punch has much more force to it, right? Now there are obviously a lot that I've left out of this, like the character's foot is just sliding forward there. I need to make that make sense, like make a pose in here somewhere where the character is sort of taking that step. Like we have to take all of the physics of this into consideration. And I think even more importantly, as the character slides back here, we need to make sure that that foot feels like it's pushing the character back. So maybe I will do something like that on that foot, and so that foot stays in place as the character moves back. So this is a very rough, still has a lot of work to go, but you can see that that has a lot more impact to it now than it did before. So hopefully this is making sense, and this gives you something to work with moving forward, and if you decide you want to do some form of attack animation. All right, let me know if you have any questions, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye-bye.